Welcome to Revealed,
revealing the unseen of weddings.
I'm Tracy.
And I'm Holly.
And we're here to pull back the veil on one of the most extravagant, emotional, and sometimes downright crazy industries out there.
Whether you're a bride or groom-to-be, seasoned wedding pro, or just someone who loves a good story, you're in the right place.
Hello, we're back. And we have our bestest friend with us, Miss Anna.
Hello, hello.
She was supposed to be here last week, but she was sick.
I'm better now.
Well, and also it wasn't last week. Y'all, we've been missing in action, I know. It was the last podcast. She was supposed to be with us.
Was that not last week?
That was last week, but we had a lot of other stuff going on in between.
Okay.
So between episode 2 and now has been a good while.
Feels like a month.
We didn't even get around to podcasting last week.
That's right. That makes me feel better.
Yeah, we did business stuff, but other business stuff.
Other business. Secret business.
It's not
All
a
right.
secret.
So we're talking to Anna about things that she wanted to talk about. And I feel like she should have been on our last 2 podcasts because we're going to go back and touch base with things that we have previously talked about that Anna has stories about.
The topics are similar.
Yes, very similar. Do you have a topic that you would like to bust into first?
I mean, we could talk about mothers of the groom.
Yeah. Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
Let's do it. My wedding this past weekend was... I had one that proved my point exactly.
A lot of the time, they're not bad at all. Like, sometimes they're an angel and make you laugh, don't care. They're laid back, they're chill, they're happy that their son is getting married. But a lot of the time, too, they're having a little bit of inner crisis and some emotion.
That's such a gentle way of putting it. I'm over here they're crazy. Anna's like, that's an inner crisis. That's perfect.
I can empathize with the emotions that they're going through, but I feel like ultimately you kind of have to or should be taking one for the team and checking that shit at the door.
Yeah.
And not letting it phase your child's day ultimately, or the bride's day.
Yeah.
That's where I feel bad. This past weekend, my bride was definitely having a crisis, and the mother of the groom just she kept being the time, we're running out of time, and it got to the point where me and the makeup artist and even the bride's mother were it's fine, it's really fine, they're not gonna start without her, we planned enough time for photos in between. There was a really bad car accident that set traffic into a spiral on Monday, and that's her wedding.
And that's something you just can't control.
You can't control that.
At the end of the day.
We had left, thankfully, 45 minutes earlier. Me and the makeup artist rode together because she lives right over here. And we were so proud of ourselves, we were going to be there with 30 minutes to spare. And no, we ended up being 20 minutes late because traffic was just crappy. But I had told them earlier when I got there that usually if there's a problem, it's a mother, and usually it's the mother of the groom. And she
they
was
never
not
believe
with this
that.
group.
Yeah.
And then when I was packing up, the mother of the bride was like, boy, you spoke that into existence. My bad.
No, that tends to happen too. The party will defend the emoji, and then something will happen, and they end up eating their words a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's just a stressful day in general, and they already feel a little bit excluded.
Right.
And they're not even prepared for the emotions that they're going to feel.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and in her mind too, I think she was probably trying to look out with okay, we're running behind, but lady, you've said it 15 times now. You can see that this bride is
you're bringing down the vibe.
Let's stop. Just stop.
Yeah.
So, what's your story?
Story time.
I feel my favorite mother of the groom story is I have 2, but I'll tell the first one. This mom was very sweet. She was probably in her 60s. She was really particular about what we were using. She brought out her own palette and everything, which I never have an issue with. And it was, of course, blue, the navy blue color that all the moms love. And she had blue eyes, so honestly it wasn't gonna look bad. It was just a really shimmery, bright blue color. And she pulled it out. She was like, is it okay if we use this? And I said yes, and she kept pulling out like her own products after that because I kind of gave her the go ahead.
Wait, had she used this? Probably not important, but this is where has she used this blue color on her eyes before?
Yes,
Okay,
she said it was
alright,
like her
cool.
favorite palette.
Cool.
And she uses that color every day, which is another thing. Like if it's something that they use every single day, it doesn't hurt to incorporate it and make them feel a little bit more comfortable. And she was totally fine. She was excited that we were using a little bit of her product. And then all of a sudden, Neon Moon by Brooks and Dunn starts playing on like the bridal getting ready playlist. Yes,
I love that song.
I
but
do
also,
too.
why is it on the getting ready?
I don't
playlist?
know. It is like a little bit of like a heartbreak.
I love this
type
song.
of
Great
vibe.
song.
Yes, but
Even just the music part, the melody is like
Yeah,
kind of melancholy and
it
just like
is.
sad.
It gives you like sad vibes. It has never given me like romantic vibes or like mother-son vibes, but she immediately got like emotional and started crying, like not just little crying, like crying.
Oh my God.
And said, well, why do they have to play this song? Like this song in particular. And she said it was like her song with her son, which...
Well, that's just weird to me in general. Because
Yes.
it's a breakup song.
That's exactly what I thought. I
It's
was like,
talking
you're
about, like, he's
literally
being in a
talking
booth by
about a
himself.
bar.
Yes.
Like the neon signs at a bar, like after a sad breakup.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't even say he's like sitting in a booth by himself or where they used to sit somewhere in the lyrics. Like it's definitely like, it's very clearly a breakup song.
I
Like,
can't remember the exact lyrics, but
I'm
it
gonna look up
definitely
the lyrics
is.
while you guys
It's
talk.
like a very country, like achy breaky heart type of type of vibe. And that in itself, like I was like, oh my gosh. And the bride was getting her hair done like right next to us. And so a lot of the time you want to rein in that behavior just so it doesn't affect the bride or spill over into like her energy and her like getting ready time. But she then like called the bride by her name and was like saying that she was stealing her son away from her.
Yeah, see, and that's what I was talking about the last time. It's like really crazy, like when they go that route. Like,
yes, like
you're never gonna
it's
see
the
him
bride's
again.
fault.
Like,
And I was like, I literally can't. Like, I just said, if you want to take a break or if you need a minute, like I can start on someone else. I can go grab someone else. And she really like got it together after that.
I just
because
hate
she
when
wanted
they
her
use
makeup
phrases
done.
like that. Like they're taking my, like, what are we living
That
in
was
the 1700s?
aggressive to me.
And
Like I was like,
the female's being sold for a goat and some dowry, and you're never gonna see your child.
So that
again?
makes sense though, because if you read the lyrics, it doesn't necessarily say that it's about a breakup, but it says it's about one person that basically leaves and he hopes that they come back, and he says she in here. However, it's like, now if you lose your one and only, there's always room here for the lonely to watch your broken dreams dance in and out of the beams of a neon moon.
oh damn,
So she took that and like associated it to
with
her
like
son.
her heartbreak.
Yeah, that her son was marrying somebody, I guess.
That's just crazy to me because
And that
she
if he
seemed like
was-
she had a good relationship with the bride as well. Like they seemed good with each other. Like that's what's crazy. And the bride seemed to be ignoring all of it, which I was like, good for you.
That's good.
Compartmentalizing to a T, because I would be really pissed off.
I feel like you need to leave.
Yes, that's my favorite. Because I never put it together though that those were the lyrics.
Yeah, it
so that
basically
like
says,
kind
like-
of clicked for me whenever
Yeah.
you pulled it up. Because I always thought that was so random in general, and that was why it was my favorite. The other mother of the groom story I have is a little bit more aggressive. This bride, the mother of the groom in this situation, was actually a saint. I mean, she helped the bride with the decorations. Like, she did essentially everything. Like, she had all this beautiful, like, pampas grass decorated everywhere. And she was proud. Like, she was like, look, like, it's all done. Like, the tablecloths. Like, she had put in a lot of work into the detail of the wedding. You can tell a lot of it was, like, DIY, but beautiful.
right.
And I kept telling her she could have a job, like, in the wedding industry if she wanted
wow.
to, because it looked that beautiful. And her soon-to-be daughter-in-law had, like, a really close relationship with her, you could tell, and not a great one with her real mom. Her real mom was like attending the wedding, but you see that sometimes, like with the dynamics at weddings, you see they're just closer with their soon-to-be mother-in-law. They kind of take on like that role, and you could tell that was the dynamic. And I found out later that one of the bridesmaids had told me this, that the bride had taken shrooms. I don't know if she microdosed or if she had like taken them before and knew like how it would affect her, but she was just having like a little bit of a meltdown when it was time for her to get dressed and get ready for pictures. Everything was done. Her hair and makeup was done. She was getting in her dress, and she was having a complete meltdown. And she started yelling at the mother of the groom, who is in my chair. Like, I'm in the middle of doing her makeup. She's like asking her where her shoes are or something like that. And the mother of the groom is like, I don't know, like, you're the last person that had them. Just like that, like, very sweet. And the bride is like, you really want to go there with me right now?
Oh,
and
what?
like calls her by her first name and starts getting like really aggressive.
I'm still over here processing that the bride did shrooms on
I
her
know.
wedding
I'm
day.
like,
mean,
I
it was
just have to
all
add that
drugs
little tidbit in.
Of all drugs that you would do on your wedding day, what made you decide to go that route? Like,
no judgment as long as you know how it's going to affect you.
Yeah, like I would take a little bit.
Yes,
Well,
yeah, like if
like
you just want to heighten your
like,
wedding experience a little bit.
Yeah.
As long as you know, this is going to affect me in a positive way.
Yeah.
And not make me
Interesting.
psychotic and want to fight my mother-in-law. Like, that's literally, like, I thought it may come to that. And so I just kind of stayed where I was, like, in between them. And I think the photographer distracted, and the planner both distracted the bride long enough. And they were like, you have to get dressed. Like, we're running out of time.
Situation.
Yes. And we were running like pretty far behind because she was freaking out. And like, I'm sure the texture of her dress was freaking her out. Like, she was clearly getting very overstimulated because she was on psychedelics. But so just some advice.
Maybe shrooms aren't the best idea on your wedding day. If you react
that's
way.
your thing, then, just do a little test run beforehand. Put your dress on beforehand.
Yeah.
Well, I almost feel like,
Start small.
like, I don't know why anybody that doesn't do them on a regular basis, like, I feel like were they bad? Like, did she get, like, a bad batch?
I'm sure.
Or did she take something with them?
With them?
I feel like she probably has taken them in the past.
Analyzing the shrooms.
I feel like that from my knowledge of them, I feel like she probably has taken them and thought like, oh, this is a good idea to like heighten my wedding day experience, but didn't think about how overstimulating your wedding day can be in general. You've got a lot of hands on you. You've got a lot of people around you kind of guiding you. You're wearing material that you're not usually wearing.
I'm overstimulated every wedding we work, and it's not even my wedding day.
Yes, your hair is different. You have a lot more makeup on than you normally have. It is very easy to get overwhelmed, and I think when you add that factor in there, it's even worse.
Right.
Yeah.
And I truly think that that's what happened. Like, you could tell she was just so overwhelmed and so overstimulated that she got like aggressive.
Well, and like maybe even projecting, like you said, that she didn't have that great of a relationship with her mother. I mean, maybe that's a time that a mom is very involved in the wedding, like helping zip up the dress. And like maybe she started to have a bad trip because she was like thinking her mom should have been there doing all of that.
That absolutely could be it. And there's no judgment from me either, because I know stuff like that certainly does make
Well,
people...
and she was super sweet too. Like,
exactly.
in the beginning. So.
Yes, and she was never mean to me. As her makeup artist, we got along fine. So I was shocked just to see her act that way. So I'm sure it was like a little bit out of character, but it didn't seem like it fazed the mother of the groom at all. Like, she was almost used to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like she was like, it's fine. Like, it's not a big deal.
Maybe she does shrooms around her mother-in-law a lot.
Maybe.
Maybe that's a normal reaction.
Maybe her mother-in-law also did shrooms and had a completely different experience.
Well,
that day.
she did say, like, this is how it's been. But I'm sure, like, just with wedding planning, that's another thing. I think her planner was just a day of coordinator, now that I'm remembering. And that will stress you out a lot more, too. not having like an actual plan or just having someone come and execute everything.
Yeah, we touched base on that too about my own wedding.
Always get a planner.
Yeah, if there was one
Oh
thing
my
I could do
goodness.
differently, it was that I would get. Oh my gosh, that was a heavy sigh. Do you hear
Small
Rambo snoring?
Yeah, I hear the snores.
Sorry,
It's cute.
y'all, if y'all hear some snores. Y'all can judge me. I definitely gave my dog some Benadryl because we all know how bad he was the last podcast we did at my house. So if the snoring gets louder, I'm sorry. But it's better than the barking. So I almost talked about it during our last podcast when I was trying to think of like situations that I was in that was like uncomfortable, or you know, it's not just the moms. It's not just anybody. I'm sure we all have bad days, you know.
But you're pretty good in those situations.
Am I?
You're good at like you are. You're good at gaining control. You have to have someone like that in the room who is like, all right.
I feel like I've been told I'm abrasive. What was the word? Was that the word? Abrasive?
Abrasive.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you're
you know
blunt,
what? Yeah.
but sometimes in certain situations, like planners can be that way too. Like photographers can also be that way.
Yeah.
Like you kind of have to have it when you're reining together like a group of people.
Yeah.
Well, it was
for
really
sure.
hard for me to not tell this story because I knew that you were coming on, and I was like, I know that Anna's going to want to talk about this, so I think you know where I'm going with this story about the bridesmaid. I will let you tell the story.
rogue bridesmaid.
Y'all, it took everything I had. Especially, it's even worse when I'm working with people like Anna or Holly because they're my friends in real life. You know, we're not just here like pretending to have a friendship within our company. Like, they're really my friends. So when I feel like one of my friends is not being treated nicely, I am going to get defensive. What did you call it the other day?
You have a justice sensitivity.
Yeah, I do have a justice
Sense
sensitivity.
of justice.
And I don't like to see people treated like crap. And I know
Yeah.
people think that, okay, Tracy's mad or Tracy, you know, is annoyed. Well, because when I see something happening that I don't think is right in any sense of the way, it's very hard for me to not
You feel the need to speak up.
say something, which I feel like.
Which I loved in that situation. And it's honestly like, it's pretty rare to even get a bridesmaid like that, to get one who, it seemed like she did not want to have her makeup done in the first place. Like being
that.
in the chair was inconvenient for her.
We talked about that too. Like, if you
Don't
don't force your people to do it because
because
it
that
makes.
ruins the vibe.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead and tell the story.
Okay. So there was like a full body mirror kind of a little bit behind me off to the side, and she kept kind of ducking out of the way to look in it just to see every step that I was doing. And with cream products, it tends to look a lot worse before it
looks
looks
scary.
better. Yeah, before
Yeah.
everything is like blended out. And that was one of the first red flags, is like I was putting some cream blush on her. I think it was like the Rare Beauty cream blush, so it's very pigmented. And before I blended it out, like right as I was applying it, she looks in the mirror and she's like, are you going to blend that out? Like, I don't even think that I could make the hateful tone that she used. It was very much like,
Oh,
Are you gonna blend that?
Speaking and how
Yes.
loudly,
And, like,
she wanted to
condescending.
cause
leave
a
it just
scene.
like this.
Yes.
I'm gonna leave it.
It
just
was like
this.
she was
She
doing
was
it
the
for
groom's
attention. Like, she wanted to
sister.
cause a scene. She wanted people to hear what she was saying.
She was the groom sister, and we had already the bride had already kind of prepped us with this a little bit because she was a little excluded from the rest of the group. And I think she felt that. And she was kind of acting out of attention is what it really seemed like, because throughout the service, she was doing things like resting her entire hand on her face where I had just put foundation or bronzer or whatever. And I was like, I literally at one point said, can you not? Because she was resting her hand on her face, but she was doing it on purpose, like to get a reaction out of me, which is actually insane to me.
But people do it.
But it's not your day. The thousands of dollars that have gone into that wedding day, and you're going to be that selfish. You're literally holding up the timeline. Like, if you don't want your shit done, don't get it done.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I know with certain personalities, like, that's not going to matter. But Tracy did come to my rescue in that situation with the blush.
I was so over it. And I was like across the room, but I couldn't take it anymore. And I had bit my tongue for so long at that point because I feel like there were more comments before the blush. Like she just
before even getting her makeup done.
Everything.
She said at the last wedding she was in, the makeup artist yelled at her because she put SPF over her professional makeup. She went in the bathroom and put sunscreen on over like her glam. And was like, did I do something wrong?
What? But like, no, why would you? Why would you? Yeah, who does that? Well, finally, I had like heard enough, and I was over it, and I couldn't bite my tongue anymore. I'm like, can you just wait until she's finished? Like, she clearly isn't finished yet.
She was like, that's why I was asking. Like, she got so pissed off that Tracy said something, but you could tell her intention was not out of like curiosity. It was for attention.
But our bride that day loved us.
Yes.
And our bride went to our defense on it. Like, because sometimes when I do like say things, as soon as I say it, I'm like, oh, shouldn't have said that.
Because you don't want to have to get to that point. Like, you don't ever want to walk into someone's wedding day and fuck up the vibe, excuse my language, because you're having like a little argument with one of the bridesmaids or a mom or whatever. Like, that's the last thing any of the vendors want to do. We're already putting so much work into the day. We don't want to ruin the energy because it's so easily shifted.
Right. Also, then you've now like annoyed your person.
Disrespected yourself either.
That's true.
Well,
that's a fine line, a very fine line.
But you're also setting the tone then, because even though like the next 3 people can sit in my chair and I'm going to be nice to them, I'm annoyed at that point. Like, now you've irritated me.
Because you get flustered.
Because of your shenanigans in the chair.
Up the vibe.
Yes.
Yeah, like you've now just set the whole pace for the rest of the day, because yes, I'm going to be nice to everybody in my chair and they didn't do anything, but I'm in my head now like stewing about how annoyed I am at you. And I can't get rid of that until I get home and have decompressed. So
it's hard to compartmentalize.
Oh yeah,
that sometimes. And that bride was another great example of not letting that shit get to her. Like, she almost expected her to act like that. And when she did, it didn't like ruin her day. But she was still like, so sorry.
That's good.
So sorry you have to deal with that.
That's a great point too, because there's multiple times where I can think of that I've run into this situation where there's one out of like the whole group of like 10.
Yes.
And they're like, they know this person's going to be like this. Yes. They know they're a little difficult. And most people all the time have requested that person go either last or first, so they can either leave once everybody else is getting ready, or they're the last one and everybody's getting pictures or like getting dressed while they're getting their stuff done.
And that's wonderful advice to people who kind of feel that way, like they have a difficult person in their wedding party.
Yeah. Now everybody going last at the end of the wedding parties after listening to this podcast are going to be like, oh my God, am I going last because I'm the annoying one?
Because you got drama.
Am I going first because I'm the annoying one? Because I'm difficult?
No one ever wants to go first either. That's a
Which
whole
is
other
crazy
thing.
To me. That is crazy to me. I would rather go first.
But we've worked in this environment, and so we kind of know what goes down. Because by the time, like, I'm to my last person, if there's like an 8 service list, if I'm on my 8th person, you're not getting the best version of me.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not getting like me with caffeine in my system.
Right.
You're getting the version of me that has to pee, that hasn't eaten all day.
Yeah. We talked about that on the other podcast too. Yeah, like, well, that and you're just fresh. You're fresh in the beginning.
And you get touch-ups.
And I'm sorry, like, I do when I have people with super thick hair or somebody that just wants something crazy. I get behind on timelines sometimes. And I feel like I would much rather be the person that's like, I'm not worried about the timeline with the first person. I am to a point, but like, I'm not sitting there stressing like, oh, I gotta be done by 9:45, gotta be done by 9:45. Whereas at the end, I'm like, oh my God, I'm 20 minutes behind. I got to catch up. Like,
even so, if you're
rushing through,
even if you're not running behind and like the photographer shows up early, like they tend to do, and are kind of saying like it's getting close, and people are getting nervous and anxious, and there's still one person left. From just all the outside pressure, you're kind of rushing through it. And it's not that I can't do a great job, like under pressure, I absolutely can, but it's still, you're kind of at a disadvantage, yes, than like the first person going.
Yeah. Yes, disadvantage. You have some good words today.
Thank you.
I have definitely run behind. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act innocent that I haven't run behind. I think we all have at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, how did that happen?
Yeah. We're
like the wedding we were talking about.
Yes. I swear, Holly and I worked the wedding, and there were 2 other stylists with us. And we still can't figure out who the other 2 stylists were.
I think we know who one was at least.
Yes. And I remember walking out, and I had like kept looking at my phone, and I was ahead of schedule, like the entire time. And all of a sudden, like, it's a madhouse, and the photographers are in there, and they're like, we need to be ready. And I look at my phone. So it's like an hour before, I don't know, they're getting ready, and the photographers are coming in. Like, everybody's like in this like huge panic. We're behind. I don't know how we got behind. I get out to the car. We were like seriously 2 hours behind on that wedding.
I feel like all is like a black hole.
Yes.
Like there's like a time glitch there.
I mean, I'm not kidding. The entire ride home, like, I could not stop thinking about it. Like, I was like, Holly, did we just like go through a time loop or something? Because
the other stylist that was with us too said the same thing. They were like, we were on time, and then all of a sudden
we weren't.
I'm convinced.
And it wasn't until we like were leaving.
Yes.
Like the last person.
It was crazy. Like, it did not make sense to me. And I am not like one of these crazy people that like deep dives into all of it, but like I'm like, I am.
I think there are certain places on the planet where time is a little different.
That is like, I believe in it, but like, I don't want the listeners to think, oh, they're all just like crazy. I mean, I like believe in that stuff, but it had never personally happened to me. And I swear we went through a time warp that day, because there's no way like to go from being on time for 5 out of 6 services, and then all of a sudden, like,
it was like daylight savings happened in the middle of the day. Like, all of our clocks changed, like everything.
It was
I'm telling you, there's something about that venue, because that's the only venue like I've experienced that at.
That makes me feel so much better. I do feel like ever since I've been back there, like, it is a little weird on the time thing. Like,
in that room, like the getting ready room,
Yeah.
I swear, like, I don't know what it is, but that's happened to me there before too. And that hasn't happened to me in a very long time in my career, but I always get anxious when I work there.
Yeah,
for timing.
It was, I mean, I was thinking about it the rest of that night, like into the next day. Like, that's how crazy, like, it was just weird. And the bride wasn't stressed about anything. Like, it was like everybody thought we were good on time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was just like,
they were just as thrown off as we were.
Yeah.
And then like we were packing up, and they were like talking about it. They're like, how did like
that is so weird.
We like it's blah 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 time now, and like, how did that happen? Like, we're behind. We need to get dressed. Like, the photographers, like, we need to do pictures. Like, we need to start.
Because typically
really weird.
That's not how it happens. Like, you'll have someone checking the time throughout.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and even I do. Like,
Yes.
even when I'm right behind, there's nothing I can do. I'm still looking at my time to see if I'm like making up for it, to see if I'm still taking way too long. Like, I don't know. And I feel like when I do run behind, it's never like at the end. It's usually somebody that like just has difficult hair or and then you can even catch up. But I don't know. That day was just ridiculous. It was crazy. I still think about that day, and I swear we went through a time loop, because it just doesn't add up.
That's actually so validating to me. The people who own all are going to be like, thanks guys. Thanks for planting that seed. It is. You get to see dogs from the window. Beautiful. Maybe that's why you think there's a time loop.
And honestly, their getting ready space is amazing. I love it.
It is beautiful.
I would,
and it never happened before to me before that time. I'm telling you that. That was, I don't know. I felt like I went through a time warp.
Yeah. That's only happened to me one other time in my life, where I walked out, and I told Tracy about it, but it was at a movie theater. We walked out. It was me and my mom walked out, and like, it was supposed to end at like 5 and it was supposed to be dark out and it was still light out. And we're like,
This happened.
Yeah,
it's still 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
That is such a weird, because it feels like deja vu or something, but it's not. It's
Yeah.
like a completely different feeling.
Yeah. There's also another venue that I won't name by name, but there's another stylist who I know has also had this experience. Every time me or her worked there, something weird happens. And it's like literally every single time.
Pause it. I want to know what venue.
Is it? I've actually worked at, I guess I shouldn't say the venue, but it is an older venue in Charleston, and I work there all the time. It's one of my favorite venues, but it was just me and the bride, like alone in one of the getting ready rooms, because that's how she wanted it. She wanted like a nice chill,
I like that.
getting ready time, like just me and her, and she had like her entire bridal party in the other room, her mom, like it was a very wholesome day. But I remember she had her eyes closed when I was doing her eyeshadow, and she asked me, is someone else in the room?
What?
And I said no, and it freaked me out. Like the hairs on the back of my neck started standing up, and I was like, no, there's no one here, it's just us. And she was like, oh my God, I swear, like I could feel someone standing
that feeling.
next to me, and she was like really freaked out, and I was like,
Oh my God.
gosh. I was like, well, maybe someone is here like to see you get married. Like maybe it's one of your relatives and not someone who
Yeah.
died on the grounds
my God.
hundreds of years ago.
Like the show
That
Ghost,
freaked me
guys.
out.
Oh
gotta
my
watch-
gosh, I love that
I
show.
love that show.
so
Did you know
good.
that the original one was actually a British?
Yeah.
No, I didn't
series?
realize that.
Yeah, that they like redid it here, but the original series was the British.
Americanized it.
Rams Awake. Oh, when I was saying like it's easy to get behind, you also get stressed like when photographers come in, and I know they're only asking because they just want like a roundabout idea, like how long they can be gone to do detail shots and things like that. But I feel like photographers stress me out so badly.
Yeah, just their presence can
Yeah,
be stressful
yeah.
sometimes.
Like, how
Anxiety
long are you gonna be?
inducing. Yeah, it's like, why are you here? It's no time.
And they're like, how long are you going to be? And I'm like, whoa, buddy. My timeline says I still have 30 more minutes. Like,
And
leave me
it's like,
alone.
I don't know.
But
They
you do
want
know.
like the detail shots too. Like they want to ask the bride like where their details are located, and I think that's why it's always good to have like a box or a bag or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
With
Yeah,
all of your
the
details.
details go bag.
Yes, so that you're not like, rushing around the room or sending someone around the room like trying to locate each little thing, like your shoes and your perfume and your jewelry and your invitation.
Right.
Having it all in one spot for the photographer to go get and just lay out for detail shots is
Yeah.
pretty dire. Okay, let's talk about flower girls
Flower
and kids in general on a wedding day. Not that they're a bad thing. Like kids can definitely add like a touch of charm to your wedding day. I get why you would want children to be there. I mean,
Especially if they're your own.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. I
yeah.
mean, they're
Well-
adorable in their little outfits as well. I mean,
Yeah.
how can you not
I
find
also
that endearing?
sometimes think it's like mothers telling the brides too, like, oh, your sister's child is going to be in your wedding. And like, even sometimes I feel like the bride's not always a fan of the kids being there.
Right, you
either.
do see that a lot. That's
Yeah.
becoming a lot more modernized, where it's like a no child ceremony. And I know a lot of people get worked up about that because it's hard to find a babysitter. But find a babysitter. Like, it just give that to yourself. Like, and your relationship, your partner, whoever you're with, give yourself a night out to go like celebrate your friends without your kids.
Yeah.
I think in the getting ready area, the only reason it can be a problem is because there's like glasses around, glasses of champagne, mimosas, and kids just aren't great at like watching where they're going and what they're doing. They're doing life for the first time.
Yeah.
Just like we all are, but they're learning as they go. They're literally
don't know
learning
that
as
they
they
can't
go.
do things.
Exactly. And so
Well, and I feel like also like even when like the child is being watched the whole time, when it is like go time for everybody to get in their dresses and stuff, I know
They're just
Rambo.
kinda
Rambo agrees with what I'm
left
about to say.
for themselves.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that is when I'm constantly yelling at kids because they like come back into the room where you're doing hair and makeup, and it's like, "Where's mom?" And mom's nowhere to be found, and
She's
I have
changing.
to yell at kids. I know,
Because they
especially
reach for your
like,
irons and like the hot
Yes,
tools.
they
and,
want to
like,
touch
sharp
it.
things.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
and
cool. It's interesting. It's something they don't get to play with a lot of the time too, and
Right.
so they're like, I want to touch it. Like that's literally
Well,
what they want to do.
and it's dangerous for them, but it's also like the stuff that we have is expensive stuff. And I know, like, when I'm at the studios, that like multiple companies that I've worked for have the studios with the spinning chairs. The big thing is the kids come in and sit in the chairs and start spinning and just spin and spin and spin. And I'm like, this is like a $600 chair. This is not what it's made for. You're not at your house. This isn't like, I don't know, your lazy boy sitting in your living room. This is an expensive piece of equipment, and maybe don't do that.
And with
And I'm
makeup,
also
they're like
cranky.
so quick too. Like they'll stick that finger in that palette so fast.
Well, and that's not
what they
sanitary.
want. Yes, and they just want to immediately shove their fingers in whatever it is, because that's what you do when you're a kid. Like you want to feel it and play with it, like Play-Doh almost. You want to like check out the consistency.
Yeah.
Well, that's also, I've had where the mother wants to like hold the baby, where when I'm like, I'm spraying hairspray, I'm spraying product, it's going directly in the child's face. Like the child's facing me, so you're facing away, but when I'm spraying all of this stuff, I don't want to burn your child. I don't want to put hairspray in your child's mouth. Like, I think it's just easier when children are not involved, at least at the getting ready space.
It's typically less stressful for like the mom too. Like I had a little girl the other day. She was a flower girl, and she was so adorable. Like one of the cutest little girls I've ever seen in my life. But she kept climbing in and out of her mom's lap while I was trying to do her mom's makeup, and her mom was pumping as well at the same time. So you could tell, like, just it was stressing her out that her child was climbing up and down on top of her while she was pumping and trying to like talk to me and get her makeup done. And the little girl's like trying to figure out what I'm doing to her mom's face, and she like wants to hold the brushes and see what I'm doing the entire time. And it just, not only does it take up like a lot of time, like it kind of makes us lag behind, I think it's just stressful for the mom as well.
I agree.
It doesn't, like she doesn't get to relax like you're supposed to be doing.
I do a lot of weddings that I've worked. The the flower girls get brought later. Like it's a flower girl that the
I've
mom's
seen that
not
a lot more
involved
often
in the
now.
wedding party.
Yeah.
Or like the mom is involved in the wedding party, but she brought somebody for the entire weekend with her, like a sister or a friend that was taking care of the kids so that she could enjoy the wedding herself. So anyway, I just think it's easier to bring them at the end of the day. Like if you want to do it that way, that's probably the better option. Also,
They get less tired that way too.
Exactly.
They're less cranky, like at the end of the day or by ceremony time.
Yeah.
Because they are like us, they get overstimulated and overwhelmed, and they're not used to being around all these people and all these exciting new things that they want to explore and check out. And if they just have a small window to do that, they don't exhaust themselves before ceremony time.
Yep. Well, that's some good info for people planning a wedding here. Maybe don't bring children with you the whole time. Obviously, we'll be nice to your kids if you do bring your kids.
We love dogs too. Like
We
I'm
do.
obsessed with dogs. It's just sometimes like their very strong tails will knock drinks over, which can break and get into like my makeup palettes and stuff. Like it's really more the liability purpose for me. It's not that I don't enjoy them. It's just time and place.
Right. And not even don't bring them, but if you're going to, then make sure they're being watched 24/7 so that we don't have to feel like jerks yelling at the kids in the room while there's nobody around. Also, that puts me in a bad situation.
I hate that. I hate telling a kid what to do.
Whoever is like supervising them, like if they start to come over to like where they shouldn't be, please come grab them and bring them back to where you need them, because like that is not our responsibility.
Yes,
Nor,
exactly.
like we don't want them to get hurt. Like
Yeah,
mirrors,
that's the last
mirrors
thing.
can go down, glass can break.
Like,
the
don't-
hot tools, just not.
The hot tools is a huge
like somebody would
liability.
be like, oh look, they're grabbing the iron. It's like, no, that's not good. It's hot. Like, what do you mean?
They can really hurt themselves.
Well, I think people don't think, and I don't think they pay attention.
People definitely don't think. I mean, I don't think all the time, but people definitely don't think.
I think they're not preparing themselves about that situation. Like, I truly think they don't
Yeah,
think
when you
about...
don't know, you don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you're not in that situation often, and so you're not preparing yourself for that scenario.
And also when there's that many people, I mean, my gosh, I think about like even like with like cousins in the big Italian family that I grew up in, like somebody would come up and be like, oh, let me take Emma for you. And then somebody else is like, oh, so sometimes the mom isn't even aware because the mom handed baby Susie off to Sheila and then Lauren came over and said, Sheila, can I hold her for a little bit? And then Lauren realizes she needs to get ready, so Lauren passes her on to somebody else, and then the mom, I think, has no idea sometimes where this child is. I mean, I just like, I don't know, I think some it's not paying attention. I think some they think somebody else has.
And it's distracting too. It's hard for them to be present and like relax and be pampered because they're worrying like, where's my child? What is my child doing? What are they getting into? Are they cranky? Like, who has them? It's just too distracting, and it keeps you from being present in the moment and, like, enjoying the moment. Not that your kid keeps you from enjoying the moment, but having to be hyper vigilant for them in a situation where they could hurt themselves is exhausting and takes away from the getting ready, in my opinion.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. I will die on that hill.
I feel like there's a lot of hills I'll die on when it comes to weddings. All right, well, I think we all have stuff that we need to do. We will be back at Holly's house next time because I thought Ram had himself under control, but he has proven himself not reliable. Anna,
Thank
it's
you
been
guys
really
for
awesome having
me.
you.
I had a great time. I'm sure I'll be back before
you better be back. Girl, you're going to be on here even after you move. We're going to figure out how to do this through like Zoom call.
Yes.
Holly and I have already been discussing it.
I'm totally down for that.
Would you like to tell the listeners where they can find your artistry?
On Instagram, it is Anna Marie Artistry _, I believe.
I'm pretty sure that's it.
She's super talented. She did my wedding makeup.
Yeah.
She's a very gifted makeup artist.
Thank you.
One of the best, if not the best.
The best.
The best. Top of the line. I will buy 14 of them.
Give me 14 of them and a bottle of sauce.
All right, y'all. Well, thanks for listening. Holly, do our spiel of where to find us, because I really don't even know.
Yes. You can find us on almost every platform under reveiled _wedding _pod. There's hooting and hollering over here with the doggies.
I'm sorry. I'm like dying laughing. One of them started howling. Oh, God.
It's a domino effect.
Yeah.
Send us your stories if you have any like weird stories, funny stories, wedding stories.
Yeah, I want to hear
stories.
Those stories.
Yeah, I want to hear the funny ones. I also want to hear, no offense to all of us, obviously, I love both of you dearly, but I want to hear something not from the hair industry.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah,
if there's any photographers,
planners,
brides, send us your story. Tell us what you hated.
Groom.
Even if it's hair and makeup team, like we want to know.
Boys on.
That's a great idea. Because, they're honestly filtering it through an entirely different lens, I'm sure.
I do know that, like, I was talking about this with one makeup company, and they were just like, no, we don't want to get, in trouble. So I don't know. I feel like people might be, like, skeptical of this. But you can't get in trouble, I feel like, as long as we're being discreet.
It's hard, too, because at every wedding, one of the first questions people want to know is like, what's the craziest thing that's ever happened to you at a wedding? And to be honest, there's nothing terrible that's made me be like, I'm never going to work a wedding again. Yeah, knock on wood, glass.
Yeah, let's not jinx it for all of us here, Anna.
But there's nothing that terrible, but there is definitely like some drama and some entertaining stories to tell. There's also some great stories to tell, which we'll be able to tell you about.
But I know,
later.
and we were all talking about earlier, just really quickly, we were talking about earlier, like how we feel like we don't want people to think like we're bashing anybody. That's not what this was. We took the most common question that we get have you had bridezillas? And what's the craziest thing at a wedding? And we turned that into a podcast. This was not us like looking to go complain or bash anybody. I felt like it's
advice.
like the question. Yeah.
We're just
people
telling
want to
what
know.
happened.
Yes, and it's great for brides like who are going to get married, or if you're
Yeah.
attending a wedding, like knowing how not to be an asshole at the next wedding that you attend. Like some of these
Exactly.
things are things you may not even be aware of, or
Correct.
they can be things to look out for. Like I would love to just be like a pillar of advice
Yeah.
for brides to be guests, whomever.
Right. Well, and that's if brides write in, like, tell us if you had a crappy hair and makeup team. Tell
Yeah.
us if I was your crappy makeup
Yeah, be
and
like,
hair
"You
team.
did a
Like,
shit
We will
job
not
on
put
my
them
hair."
on blast.
Right.
We swear. We're not
But,
here
like-
to throw any names out.
but we want to know, like, things that like maybe we've never thought about on this end that have made you guys mad or you guys upset that we would have never thought would affect you. We want to know your story. So whoever you are, grooms, brides, videographers, florists, all of you.
Cleanup crew.
But send us your stories. 'cause
Cleanup crew probably has
We're gonna
some-
run out
Like
soon.
music.
We're gonna run out of stories after a while, and then we're just gonna have to switch to like karaoke or something. Y'all can tune in and listen
There's
to
no
us sing.
business like no business like no business.
We're
I
gonna
know.
give jokes. I don't know. We'll have to start talking about something.
If it's comedy, I will be an observer. Strictly.
Strictly observed.
A risk.
Yes.
Yes. All right, y'all.
It's been
Stay
fun.
blessed.
Peace out.
Bye.
This has been a Trolley Productions.